And we are vigilant.
Yes.
And let's get right to the federal response, because we know the state, county by county response has been solid. And the federal response has been good, too. The governor put in a declaration, and FEMA has been very solid, reacting very quickly.
That's right, and the governor requested that the president issue a disaster proclamation, and he did so. And so there are about 300 federal people in our state dispersed. About 150 of them were already here because of the volcanic eruption. And so they're here, and the whole response has been very much a joint operation by the federal, state, and county governments.
So what does it mean when that declaration is put out there and then signed off by the president? What does that free up in terms of personnel, bodies, equipment, cash, all the above?
All of the above. All of the above. And at this point, FEMA, of course, is basically the lead agency, but they are very well primed to do everything that they can. And I think that even if this the hurricane is maybe losing its force, but there's still a lot of rain, and I think if you saw the pictures of the flooding on the Big Island, that's going to cause quite a lot of damage. And so I think it's always better to be safe than sorry, and people need to continue to watch the news and stay tuned and stay safe and stay especially out of places where there might be flooding.
Yeah. Do you feel that Washington completely understands the concerns in terms of the mileage, the distance, the challenges that we face geographically? It's not like there's a flood in Houston as there was last year, or fires in Northern California, where assistance can be brought in, can be driven in. Here it's obviously a much more different dynamic.
Yes, there are logistical issues, etc. And for example, when the volcanic eruption was going on, so many of my colleagues thought that the entire state was affected. They keep forgetting that we are an island state. We have unique characteristics. That's one of the reasons I'm here, because I want to see for myself what kind of damage occurs, and so I can really paint a picture for my colleagues when we need federal funds to come our way. And the thing is that these kinds of natural disasters are happening more frequently and with greater damage, and so I think a lot of my colleagues are experiencing these things in their states, wildfires in California and all of that. I think that makes us much more prepared to support each other when we come in with our requests.
And you did just arrive, because if I'm not mistaken, I just saw you on TV.
I think I was on a plane just a little while ago.
Yes, because I saw you on TV with Wolf Blitzer, Jake Tapper just a day ago.
Yes, I was kind of busy on Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday was an interesting day. Don't want to get into the politics of all things, but there is something that you can't deny, that the heat is hotter, the cold is colder, the winters are more dramatic, so are the summers, the fires, the dry brush. The flooding, you know, the natural disasters.
I think global warming and I think climate change, which some people, including the president and his administration, does not want to acknowledge, but most scientists do acknowledge it. And there are things that we need to do. So there are efforts to have more research and done on what causes climate change or what we can do. There are bills to protect our corals. In fact, I've been working with the Army Corps of Engineers to dredge the Alawai Canal for better drainage. All of these things are mitigation efforts that we should be supporting.
When we talk about that term, federal funding, it's great to say federal funding because it's not us, but it is us. Federal funding means it's still our tax dollars. It just comes out of a bigger pot that more people contribute to.
And I think that if we look at it, that we're all in it together, that, you know, if Texas has a major disaster, or New York, I hate to see my colleagues supporting resources for disasters in their state, but not in other states. That is not how we should be looking at things, and that's why, of course, we're going to go in, and our delegation will make our pitch to get the federal resources that we need.
And then the second part of that, though, there is not an endless source of funding for these quote-unquote federal dollars.
That's right.
And how critical is it for that to be budgeted in light of what's happening?
We should be very astute in how we spend taxpayer money. And, you know, you raise the issue with me, and I think that giving a huge tax break, 1.5 trillion tax break, to the richest people in our corporations in our country when they didn't need it is not where our resources should go.
What are your greatest concerns, bringing it back locally, because all politics and all concerns right now are local.
Yes.
What do you want to see happen here over the next 24, 48 hours and over the next many days, and hopefully not weeks as the storm comes and goes, but leaves behind potential concerns?
Well, of course, I want to have all of the federal resources coming for the volcanic eruption, because that's going to take, it's a long-term recovery. The flooding on Kauai, both of those have been declared national disasters, and now we have this. So I want to make sure that all of the federal resources come to Hawaii as needed. But there's still a lot of major issues that people here care about, like health care and Medicare, Social Security, and veterans. And so those are all things that await me in Washington, D.C., not to mention the Supreme Court nominee.
Exactly. You're going to be here for how long? Just a couple days?
I'll be here for a number of days. We shall see. Just like the hurricane we're watching, I'm going to be here as I need to be. Okay,
so let's talk about the combination of the volcano and now this potential, we don't want to use the word disaster, but there could be some challenges as this storm comes and goes. Your assessment of the county and the state reaction, because I think much has been learned, for better or worse, as a result of the missile scare in January, the flooding that we experienced in April, both on Kauai and here on Oahu, and then what's happening on the Big Island. There's been a lot of lessons learned that seem to have set us up in a better position to react.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. And I think that when natural disasters occur, that we've always worked very well in a coordinated fashion. So the federal, state, and counties have worked in a coordinated fashion. I think that that speaks well for all of our people in Hawaii, not to mention the resilience of Hawaii's people and their ability to, sort of be resilient and be helpful to each other and all of that. So we learn from each one of these occurrences, and I think an agency like FEMA, with all of its decades of experience in helping in these situations, really it benefits us greatly.
One thing I think we've also learned too is the sense of community, the sense of ohana, that we have come as a state to help one another, neighbor people helping perfect strangers.
And we both certainly saw that on the Big Island.
Absolutely.
With all these people pitching in regarding the volcanic eruption.
Yeah, it was kind of a chicken skin, moment, many of those moments that we experienced. So you mentioned that your brothers and sisters in Congress, you don't want to see them pick and choose who they're funding.
That's right.
Do you see that same sense of ohana, that Hawaii is included in that big ohana, or sometimes you really have to fight and remind them, like, hey, we're part of these 50 states.
That's right, and that's what our delegation does. And we have some very unique kinds of situations, and so we have to make sure that when we pass national legislation that may have applicability to 49 states, that may be a little bit different in Hawaii. So, for example, regarding the volcanic eruption, we have to change the law so that our flower growers could get coverage for damage from volcanoes, and that doesn't happen in a lot of other states.
So I
put in language.
Similar to how farmers might be protected on the mainland when they lose their crops to natural disaster.
Yes.
Okay, so you're going to be here with your boots or whatever.
Well, I have my walking shoes on.
Boots, but on the ground. What do you want to see happen, and what are you going to work to ensure happens here over the next, again, 24, 48 hours?
I'm certainly staying in touch with all of our responders, and my staff is on a daily basis getting updates, and I will probably be with the governor tomorrow morning when he does another update. And I was with all of the responders, pretty much all of the people who are involved, earlier this afternoon at the Emergency Operations Center in Diamond Head. And so I work with everyone else to find out what we can do and to make sure that we put our best foot forward when we request resources.
And so far satisfied with the early and initial response?
Oh, yes. And a lot of this, how safe we're going to be, is very much dependent on the people of Hawaii really being attentive, watching the news, listening to the radio, and getting the supplies that they need. And we would be grateful if the hurricane does pass us by, but I know that we're probably going to be in for a lot of rain, and that causes its own set of damages. So everybody needs to know, be safe.
Absolutely. Pay attention. Thank you very much, Senator. Always appreciate your time. If you're around for the next day or two and you come across some information you want to share, let us know.
I'll be back.
We'll be happy to welcome you back.